Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. So I'm not sure which country you're from. Some probably are in the morning, afternoon, and night. So for us, me and Hazwan, we're from Malaysia. So right now it's around 1 p.m. for us, and then it's Saturday. So thanks for joining. And then especially today is April Fool, right? So just thought I'd use like the April Fool's Notion name. So yeah, it's nice to see everyone. So for today's agenda, right, just to give a bit of walkthrough of what we'll be talking about. So first of all, we just do a bit of introductions of just who I am, and then Haswan, who will be the other guest speaker. And then we'll go through what is Notion, so on a high level, and then also some of the example use cases of what Notion can be used for. And then for Haswan today, he will be actually showcasing like how he actually used Notion AI for himself and his workflows, and also he is a consultant in helping people for Notion. He will introduce himself a bit more later. And then I'll go through a bit on the dynamic graphs, how you can actually create graphs inside Notion. So just to show you a bit of examples, and then some step-by-step guide that's provided. And then lastly, we just have like a Q&A sessions. So if any questions, you can just ask. So just throughout the webinar, so just feel free to ask. All right. So just a quick introduction. So my name is Thomas. So I'm a Notion consultant and then also a Notion ambassador. So basically what that means is that as a consultant, I actually reach out to companies and all solo entrepreneurs to help them to build the systems using Notions. So if you're quite new to Notion, we go through a little bit later. So, and then as an ambassador, so what does this mean is just that I actually work quite closely with Notion, just in terms of like collaborations and then promoting stuff and then doing webinars like this. So one of the initiative that I have done is to set up a Notion Malaysia meetup. So we have done like twice meetup now. So that's where I met the guest speaker Hazwan today. And then in the future, I hope to do more, just to meet more people, just to promote more about Notions. Yeah, so I'll pass my time to Hazwan for him to do a quick introduction. Hazwan, I think you're on mute. Yeah.
Okay, hello everyone. My name is Hazwan. So today I'm going to show you some workflows on Notion AI and how I use it and how other people can use it. And also, I'm also a Midjourney generative AI coach, so you can ask about that if you need. But today we're going to do a Notion AI session. Because right now Notion AI, yeah, there's a fee. So how do you maximize it? So I'll be sharing in the session. So hope you all can stay for the session and have a good session.
Okay, thanks, Hazwan. So yeah, let's get started. So I'm just looking at the poll that you guys voted. So it seems like there's one that have heard about Notion but never use it, and then there's two beginner users, and then three intermediate users. So today what we're going to cover is a bit of mix. So initially we'll cover more on just what is Notion in general, and then we'll show a bit of use cases on what Notion can be applied to. So just to give you a bit of ideas. So in the meantime, feel free to just ask any questions you have in the chat comment sections. So the message. Yeah, so let's get started then. So for some of you probably quite new to Notion, so I'll give a brief examples of what it is, right? So Notion is actually a tool, a mixed bag of tool. You can think of it as combinations of like Excel, Google Sheets, Calendar, Kanban board, like for example, Trello. So it used like for a very wide range of use cases. So some people actually use it for personal, like they plan their own trips, they create their own personal websites, and then for more teams, companies, they actually use it for the company like project management, for content creations. So a lot of different variety of use cases. So which I'll go show you later. But this is just to give you a general sense of what Notion is. And then let me just share my page again, just to show the correct screen. Okay, I think we have people joining. Trying to navigate two monitors. Hopefully it works. Okay. Yeah, so what I'm showing now is actually a Notion page. So at the core, Notion is just like a documents. So I can create a new documents here, right? Just to show you guys. So example of Notion. So it's the most simplest. You can think of it as a Google Doc. So you can actually type like, so title, and then you can like check this. So to do one, to do two, to do three, and then you can actually create tables. So just to show you, so name, dates, and then you can kind of customize just the field colors of it. So this is like the most high level basics of what Notion can be. And then often it's actually, the more you use it, the more we appreciate the simplicity. But then there is also another complex side of Notion is that it can actually do for a lot of different things. Like for example, I mentioned earlier, project management, or time planner, or even like content creations, which I'm going to show you. But just to give you a bit of sense of why Notion is so popular. So one of the reasons why Notion is very popular for younger generation nowadays, or even like more companies like lately, like there are a lot of bigger companies like that actually adopts Notions up to like 500, 1,000 users, is that it's actually very easy to pick up because they have templates. So I'm going to show you what you're seeing right now is just a list of templates that's actually hosted on Notion's website. So the idea of what they call templates, right? It's actually just I guess like a mold that actually you can actually copy and paste to your own Notion space. So for example, here we can see like there's a template for Notion's company goals. So if you're new to Notions, you want to set up goals for your company, you can actually just select this and then just duplicate it into your Notion space. So there are, of course, free and paid templates. So for here, the examples, you can see these are all free. So this is created by Notion, if I'm understanding is correct. And then let's say you want to go into more health and wellness. So this is more personal. So you can see this like, it's actually more fancy, like it's well decorated. So let me try just duplicate it just to let you guys see how it looks like. So you can see the process is actually very simple. I just click one button. That's usually just duplicating to my Notion page. So this is one of the page that we saw earlier. So you can see this is actually quite fancy. Like they have like more for wellness planning. So this like what's the plan for today? You can have like a drink waters, chance information, study for 2 hours, and then they can also include like a lot of widgets here. So definitely this is more the aesthetic route for people. So which is actually quite a huge audience, especially for the Gen Z side. So I'm a bit older, so sometimes I can't relate like making so beautiful stuff like. But then for these persons, like they have these templates, they use it for their schools, their languages learning, fitness trackers. So you can just click inside. They actually have like a list of how you can actually use Notion. So this is actually one of the reasons why Notion is so popular like among users. It's just that it's actually very easy to adopt and just for new beginners to use it. Yeah, as I go along, just feel free to ask any questions and then we can answer during the webinar. And then the next thing about Notion, a lot of people ask about is just the plan. So is it actually free? And then, or how much should I pay? So that actually still quite a lot of confusion. So that's why I want to bring this up to people. It's just that, so Notion by itself is actually free for all users. Although there are a bit of caveats on what does it mean by free, right? So essentially, like if you use it Notion just for yourself personally, it's actually free. And then there's no limitations in terms of how many pages you can create. Although once you go into the plus plan, so which is the $8 per month, so this is normally more recommended for smaller teams. So they actually provide unlimited file uploads, which actually I think is up to 2.5 gigabytes of one file. And then it actually allows you to invite up to 100 guests. So if you're like the small companies, maybe like 5 to 10, right? You can actually just sustain with one plus account. So the idea is that once you have one account, right, you can actually invite 5 to 10 guests or even just up to 100 to be working together in your Notion space. This is kind of how you can actually like save money like for smaller teams. Of course, your bigger teams, so your business, they have a business plan, enterprise plan. So this they have like more fancy support, like for example, SSO, is you don't have to actually type the password. They can just use your own company password. And then you can have your private team spaces. So team space is more like departments you can think of. If your company have like finance department, HR departments, so they allow more easier way to separate it and then onboard people into Notion. So it doesn't have to be like one by one. Yeah. So this is kind of how to differentiate in if you're thinking to use Notion, right? And then of course they have Notion AI as well, which is $8 per month, which Hazwan will explain more later. But just to let you know, like it's something similar to ChatGPT that's out there. Yep, and then we have Abram saying that class is great. Yep, I agree as well. So yeah, so enough explanations about Notion. So yeah, let me just go through a little bit of some of the few examples, use cases that so these are some, it's either that I'm using personally for myself or examples that I built for my clients. So I'm going to show you. So let me just remove this toggle so that it's more full screen. Yep. So what you're seeing now is actually a Notion page that I built for myself, that I manage my own consulting business. So I try to make it more simple and then a bit more pleasing as well, just in terms of the UI UX design. So you can see here there's marketing, accounting, personal checklist, SOP, and then database. So I'll just show by starting from the marketing side. So this is basically where I actually create contents. So I regularly post contents on, like, for example, Twitter, YouTube's, and then even my own newsletter. So you can see here at the top, this is just basically a content calendar. So what are the contents that I have? And then you can see like it's being written down here. And then the bottom here, so just to show you. So these are different types of contents that I actually create. So for example, content writing. So basically this is where I create my Twitter or LinkedIn, just writing scripts. This is where I have a Kanban board just to manage all the different like contents that I have. So you can drag around, like drag and drop. So for example, here I actually separate it to shorts, basically just a more short form of writings, and then threads is maybe a long form, maybe more like a blog post or article. So for Notion, what's very helpful is that you can actually collaborate with people using it simultaneously. And then at the same time, for example, I have this something called columns AI review, which I'm going to plan to do it next week. So once you press it, right, there's actually like a documents that you can use. So you can write stuff here. So you can collaborate with people, and then I can drop down ideas. So what I need for here. So everything can be written here. And then for more of a team environment, you can actually just talk to people. So there's an add comment here. So for example, I can type Elias. So and then select Thomas. So please follow up on this. So what will happen is that when you type this in, you actually will prompt the users, just give them a notifications. So if you actually install Notion in your mobile as well, so they will receive this as a notification, just that so that they know they need to follow up on this. So this is one of the ways that you can actually collaborate with people. And then at the bottom here, so I have more like a system just for my newsletter. So this is where I have more like a step-by-step guides on what I need to do. So for example, transfer tweets that I have bookmarked into a database. So basically, I normally get ideas on Twitter just on what I want to include in my newsletter. So for example, this is a bookmark page for my Twitter. So I can see that, oh, these are some of the good ideas that I want to share, talk about how companies actually use Notion. So once I have this, I can actually just copy these ideas here, for example, and then I just paste it down here. So this is one of the examples. Yeah, so once I paste it down here, so I can kind of just change like, this is the main ideas that I want. And then if I decide like these are my newsletter, right? So I decide like which ideas should go into which newsletter. So what I can actually do is I'll just select this, and then you can just drag it here. So you can see the text actually goes into this newsletter, so that I can continue to work on it later. So this is more like a brainstorming corner of how I can actually get ideas and then just plan out my newsletter. So if you have used something like called Trello before, so it's very similar, just a Kanban feature. So the difference is just that you can actually add a lot of like more step-by-step guides. So for example, like here I have like a more how I can actually get ideas from my newsletter. And I can provide links. You can just provide guides. So if I don't want to see this, right, I can just hide it. So you can imagine this can be quite helpful for in a team environment when you have people go on leave or maybe a lot of different people working together. So they can always have like a systematic ways of doing things. So the next one I can show you is more just like my YouTube page. So it's more like getting from ideas and then planning, schedule, edits, and publish. So this is more like a more simple one. And then same for my podcast. So this is where I kind of track my podcast content. And then at the bottom here, so what I have is something more interesting. It's called analytics. So this is actually where I track my Twitter analytics. So you can see like these are kind of my Twitter followers, like my tweets, like profile visits, some of the statistics. And then at the bottom here, so this is more the stats for my podcast. So I can have like one page just to see everything. So this will be actually using a different tool. It's called Plus Docs. So I'll show you a little bit of some of the tools that Notion can integrate with. So which is actually one of the good, I guess like one of the main attractions of Notion as well, is that the dream is actually to have everything in one space so that we don't actually move around. Like, so this is why I have the analytics here so that I can go through it. Right, so that's the marketing page. And then the next one we have is more accounting. So I wouldn't show you that. So this is more personal. But I have something called personal checklist that I can show you. So another very simple use case for Notion is that people often use it for their own checklist. And then the good thing about this is that so Notion actually recently like introduced this thing called Notion buttons. So it's actually quite good for me. Like for example, this is actually my daily task. So the things that I have to do. So for example, I can just click it here like every time I do the same thing. So once it's done, so I can just do it like this. And then the next day I can just click on reset and then just reset it again. I can just do the checklist again. Of course, I have this like cheat code. I just click complete everything. So this is one of it for just my daily tasks. And then at the bottom here, you have something called more like an ad hoc task. So it's not something I do it daily. So in this case, I like something called edit podcast, prepare for webinar. So for this webinar, so if I just click it right, since I already done the preparation, it will just disappear. And then I have another one is about recording my new videos for one of my clients. So what is good about this is that I can actually assign this. Let's say I don't want to do it today, right? So what I can do is I want to edit my podcast. Let's say I want to edit it for Sunday. So if I move it here, right, you can see actually disappear from here. So the idea is that ad hoc task is actually only shows the task that I need to be doing today, which for the rest of the tasks that I don't have to do for today, right? You can see it's actually down here. So the edit podcast is here. So, and then let me try to drag it. I'm sure I can drag it. But yeah, you can see it's actually here. So this is actually where I can kind of plan my tasks as well. So let's, for example, if I move it back here, right? So move it to Saturday, which is today. You can see it's actually reappear here. So this is actually a very good ways to either manage it for your personal tasks or even just a team task where you can actually collaborate with different people. And then you have a calendar just to see so what is actually up for everyone, what are people are doing, and then you can see what's the status. Okay, so that's the checklist part. And then here we have a few like buttons here. So this is more like just a quick access for me to include things. For example, if I just click this here, I have something called toolbox. So these are the things that I just access to things that I always use for. So this is just like you can call it like a favorites or like a bookmark. And then at the bottom here, so this is where I think you'll find it more valuable if you're working in a team environment is that I have a calendar for all the events or consultations that I have. So earlier, what I showed you the calendar earlier, that's actually for tasks. So for this case, is actually for organizing my meetings and events. So you can see like these are some of the clients that I have consultation with. And then for today's events, which is actually here. So if I expand it, right? So I actually written some notes here, just some of the poll questions that I have earlier. So you can actually have a lot of different information stored here. It can be image or videos, just for collaborations. So yeah, this is actually where I plan my meetings. So some of you might have questions like, for example, so what if I already have Google Calendar? What if I have different tools that I'm actually using for Calendar, right? So I'll actually show you some of the tricks that actually Notion can integrate with Calendar, so you don't have to do like kind of double work. Okay, so this is more on the business side of things. So I also have some use cases for my clients as well. Just thinking how to show you. Let me show example if I possible. So I'll just go to my leads. So I'll just show you an example of that. Yeah, so aside from like project management, I actually have clients that actually like I work together with her to build like a trading dashboards. So she's like a trader by day, like she's using this software called MT4. So I'm MetaTrader 4, I think. So I'm not so much of a trader, so but what she requested is to build like a dashboard for her. So the idea is that in this dashboard, she has multiple accounts here. So you can see like account 1, 2, 3. And then let's say, for example, if I go into here, right? So depending on the accounts, she has like a list of trades that she created here. So of course, these are all just like examples, demos. So you can see like logs, the P&L. So every time she has a win trades or lose trades, actually being logged here. And then what I built for her is actually the dashboard, just using purely Notion. So if I just zoom in a little bit here so that you can see it better. So you can actually like a dashboard here, depending on the months that I select. So in this case, let's say she only want to see data for March. So it's like March, right? You can see like you have 1 wins and then 0 losses and then 1 break evens. So there are some of the metrics as well, like the gain, the gross profit, the net profit. So these are some of the selections that can be done in Notion as well. So this is more like a native dashboard. It's not like a fully like dashboard that I'm going to show you later, but then these are some of the ways that can be done using Notion as well. Yep, so we have one question for Tajul. So yeah, actually all this data is actually being pulled through like automations. So she actually requested another developer, I believe it's written in Python, just to pull through the data from MT4 to Notion. So if you're interested in this software, I can connect you with her. But it's definitely possible to use API to actually get data from somewhere else into Notion. Okay, so this is one of the example. And then maybe for more personal examples, use cases, let me just show you. Maybe like a more fun one, less serious. So lately I've been planning like a trips to Jakarta. So this is just how I can actually embed like a Google map here. So this is just a map of Jakarta. And then here's some of the lists that the ideas of places that we want to go. So like National Monument, like then we just copy paste it from the websites. So we can have some information here. So Hasia, you have one question about, does Notion require any coding to set up tasks? So you don't need coding to set up tasks, but you do need some understandings of formulas. So if you have used Excel before, right? So if it's a bit more complex use cases, you might need formulas. But in general, actually, you don't need codings or even formulas, to be honest. So if we have time later, I can show you an examples just to set up a very basic Kanban board, which I think we have time. Let me just check. Okay, yeah, I think we should have time. So yeah, just some examples of just more on the personal use cases. Okay. And then, yeah, let me just do a quick example of how we can actually set up like a project management so that you guys can see like how it actually looks like. So I create a new page here. So I call it project management. So for a simple project management, right? So we normally have something called a task, a projects and a task. So what Notion is very good at is actually having this concept of called database. So I can select database here. So basically it's just a table. So I'll just name this a project, right? So what this does is that you can actually create a table, maybe like project A, project B, project C. And then let me just delete this. So this is something, if you worked with Excel before, it's kind of similar, but also very different. There are few restrictions and there are a lot of different benefits as well. But in this case, let me just show you something called status. So when you click the plus, right, you add a new property, and then I can select this thing called status. I'm trying to find it. So this is status here. Yeah, so there's a status. So normally like when you have a project, right, you have different like stages here. So Notion already gives like a basic template here, got started, in progress, and done. So what you can do is just change it here. So this is actually the most basics where you can plan for a project. But then lately Notion actually introduced another very nifty tool. So it's actually called subtasks. So they call it sub items. So once I enable this, right, so just create it. So what you can do here is you can click expand. So we can actually have like task A, task 2, task 3. So we can just hide this. So this is not required. So you can see like there's actually different tasks that you can plan. So you can actually have, each of them can have their own different progress. that's under one project. So this is actually examples of how you can actually plan the projects. And then the second thing is that the good thing about Notion when it comes to database is that you can actually view data in very a lot of different formats. So a lot of times when I explain to my clients who are actually new to Notion, it's a bit confusing. So basically the idea is that if you use, you create a table, right? So what you can actually do is that you can transform this table into a Kanban board. So in this case, let me just select this, plus. So they call it a different views. So there are a few options here. There are tables, board, timeline, calendar, list, gallery. So yeah, please, Notion can be used solely for personal as well. So let's say if I use select for board, right? So what would happen is that, let me just select the group. So I just select the group, just make sure it's a status. So what would happen is that you can actually see the tasks or projects that we created earlier. So it's actually being separated into these projects here. So you can turn the table into a board view. So this is how it can actually be done. And then it can also be done using just as a calendar. So let me just show us a calendar. So if I create a calendar view, right? So what would happen is that, so let me just create a date. I think it should have a date as well. He already has a date. So let's say you have a date columns here. So what would happen is that if I just put in some random dates here, and then I can go to the calendar view. So you can see that the project is actually being projected in this date calendar view. So these are some of the different ways you can actually transform the different types of the same type of data into different views. So this is one of the more powerful tools for Notion. You can imagine, like for example, in one use case, so for my clients, they actually have admins who are used to more like traditional data entry in Excel format. So that's when she actually prefers to have this table format. And then we actually have a sales team for them. So the sales would be more used to Trello, for example, Kanban board. So which is where they actually use this Kanban. And then for the manager, he wants to have an overview of what actually is going on, like in terms of tasks, what people are doing. So that's where they actually have this project calendar to have an overview of what's everything is going on. So this is one of the strengths of Notions when it comes to just having different views and then having it in separate pages. Okay, all right. So I can see there are a few questions here. So let me just go through it now. Sharing it. Yeah, I'm trying to drag it down here. Okay. Yeah, thanks for answering some of the questions as well, Hazwan. So let's see. Yeah, I think Abraham have a questions about, is it every morphing over time, the user perspective once they grow in knowledge? So I think Hazwan, you make employee task come on board. Yeah, so maybe to answer Abraham's question, right? So yeah, that's another strength about Notion is that it's actually very good for smaller scale companies. Of course, it can be used for big companies as well. But in terms of smaller companies, right, because things are always changing, you're always scaling, you're always onboarding new employees. So one of the strengths of Notion is that you can always design it to be very bare bones. Initially, when you first started your companies, it can be just like a few documents, a few pages. But then as you grow, you can create different pages for HR, finance, just for different departments to scale. Of course, the other downside is that you have to be very intentional of how you can create your Notion systems. So for example, like if you use Excel, right? Let's say examples like for Excel, when you have like a date column, so people can actually type an actual date format, or they can just type like the text or March or January or 2023. So there's actually no hard logics on what is being set up. But for Notions, most of the things are very intentional. You can't just simply type things. That's why it takes quite a lot of upfront work just in terms of getting your staff to be on board. But then once they actually use it, right? So then we have like a more systematic way of using the system, and then it actually helps with scaling. As you have more staff coming in, you have new members come, you can just share them the Notion page, and then they will know how to use it because you already written the guides. Okay, And then for the next session, so you can keep the questions coming, but I'll pass the time to Hazwan. So just he can share more about Notion AI, how we can actually use it. So Hazwan, I think you're muted.
Okay, I think I can share. So how am I gonna share my screen? Present this. Can you add me as a presenter?
Yeah, let me do it now. Okay.
Okay, hold on. Okay, today I'm gonna talk about Notion AI. So first is, what is Notion AI? Notion AI is just more or less, if you read the fine print, it is ChatGPT, but as an API towards Notion. It doesn't say ChatGPT, but it says by OpenAI. So those are the makers of ChatGPT. So it's just you can say a plugin inside Notion that you can use. So there's a couple ways I use this Notion AI is for idea generation, article writing, event planning, nutrition planning, business admin, and a use case in URLs. So I'm gonna do it. How do you say, bare bones? I'm gonna do it as I speak. I'm gonna start with an empty Notion page. So idea generation. So if you have an idea, such as you want to make a painting, so you can put points in. So the location, so you can ask Notion AI. It's a you can use space when you inject space. You can press space, it will automatically go to Notion AI. So you can say use the points to make a list of painting ideas. So when you ask, it's just the same thing as ChatGPT. How do you use ChatGPT? But it's integrated. So when you have one page, you can link other pages, and everything that you ask the bot, the Notion AI bot, is neatly organized into one page. So you don't have to um, how do you say, scroll up and down like you do with ChatGPT, and you can reference it, and it's much easier. So you can start with a couple points. So if you have a couple ideas in point form, you just jot them down and ask the AI to make ideas or give ideas. And you can continue with this workflow. You can ask them, give 10 painting styles I can use with color palettes in a table form. So this generates just as ChatGPT, but it's into one item. So when you come back, say, where are my ideas for the painting I want to make? So you have it in one place. So the best thing you can do is you can take this and say you want to make this as a page. So you can make this as a page. So we can convert it into a page. When you put this as a page, it can go down one level, and you can keep on adding stuff that you need. Say this 10 painting use. So it gives you 10 ideas. You can ask them to have 20 ideas, 10 ideas. You can go level by level. You can make this into a page, you can make this into a page. So it's more or less unlimited. So that's just one thing I do for idea generation. And the next one would be Notion Talk, article writing. So article writing, you can give, say you want to make an article about, I usually just jot down what my train of thought is. So article about which method is better, use Notion or ChatGPT, and copy paste into Notion. It's more or less, hold on, I have something, hold on.
Yeah, maybe I can share a bit my experience as well. I use Notion AI and ChatGPT. So Hazwan can share later. But so far, I feel like ChatGPT 4, at least the paid version, is a lot better. But then Notion is a lot more convenience because everything is in one place, right? And then it's cheaper compared to ChatGPT.
So okay, I'll continue. So article about peanut butter. So write, you can ask it to write an article line, a layout about eating peanut butter health way. What I use when you have the format, you can specify, add 10 subtopic and 5. So you have your topics. You can do this style with idea generation also. So when you have this, you can ask the AI so yeah, you can ask same as ChatGPT, but it's in a nice and neat package. So we just have written a short article. You can ask it to summarize all summarize all points in outro. So we have our article done. So that's how you can use the as article. And like I said, you can take one of these and make a page. So it can be how do you say, your own encyclopedia, your own dictionary, where you can put whatever you want about peanut butter, um, add recipes, stuff like that. So the next one is event planning. So event planning, say um, I'm planning a picnic located in Kuala Lumpur. Give me a layout and layout plan. So if you don't know how to plan an event, so you just ask them how to plan an event. So okay, choose location. So when you have choose location, you just add choose give me a list locations that is located that is a large park in Kuala Lumpur. So I give you some examples, and you can do this for everyone. You can use set picnic essentials, list picnic essentials, plan a menu, plan a healthy menu, plan a vegan menu, plan a diverse menu with specific dietary needs. You can give types for decoration, so you can also make every point a page. So you can make every point a page, turn into page. So when you turn everything into a page, you can go inside and make, so plan the menu. As an example, give 10 vegan So you can go one layer into one layer into one layer. So that's the beauty of Notion. Now you can connect everything, and when you're all done, you have your multi-page event that has been completed in a couple of minutes. So this is one of the ways you can use. That's the connectivity, and also the way you can break down every single point into pages, and you can put your videos. You can make so southern style vegan fried chicken. You can put recipes inside. You can put YouTube videos how to make it. So you can put everything all in one place with all the media. So next item is nutrition planning. So nutrition planning, you can use it as a calorie tracker, but anything with AI, you have to double check the nutrients. So calorie tracker, just gonna generate a random breakfast. So give a random which but you can substitute this to what you have eating. Yeah, I say okay, say you had this for breakfast or whatever breakfast you had, you're planning to take. So you can take this and break it down. So give value in a table. So it gives everything. So replace selection, insert below. You can replace what you have highlighted, also insert below. So when you insert below, you have a breakdown of what you have eaten. So when you have this, you can take this table and you also can extrapolate more. So you can say from the table, make a weekly breakfast similar ingredients. Take the data and ask it to make some breakfast ideas. Sorry. Yeah, you get what I mean. So you can take this and you can suggest. You can make a meal plan. Um, a meal plan. Healthy foods for a kid. So it just gave me a meal plan, and you can just list down the ingredients you have in your fridge and ask it to make a meal plan. So you can take these items and you can make it like I said. The difference between ChatGPT and Notion AI is that you can make pages and you can also edit in turn. So if I just wanted this, so I can highlight this, and you can ask the AI to give to healthy. You can make a page or just insert below. So from this lunch, like you know, okay, I like this lunch, so you can have 2 recipes right here. So you can't do that with ChatGPT now, I think. So it's all in one place, so it's easy. So the next one I'm gonna show is, you can do almost everything, but I'm just gonna say a couple examples that I've used. So, okay, business admin. So this, I generated this random. So I asked the AI to generate a 20 employee business consulting firm, inclusive of job positions, work experience, proficiencies, and randomly generated hobbies. So this is all random and AI generated, but you can use this for your employees or your students or your class. So you have a database, you can manipulate the database, say from the data. So I have 20 people, random stuff I haven't read. So you can just, this is to speed up the work. So I can say, plan You can ask it what kind of business and should a business dinner. Sorry, what kind of business? I usually use this for training. So what kind of training should we plan for needs of the employee? I will scan their. Sorry, there's two. There's one example. So the example is, like I say, I'm organizing an IT seminar. Which employees should attend? Should I put it in a list form? So scan the database and ask which people should attend the IT seminar. So you scan everyone who's in IT. Yeah. So yeah, these two, and you can ask them. Also add why they be invited, why they should attend. So they'll give you a brief analysis. So he said IT consultant, he has proficiency in network and administration, cybersecurity, and cloud computing. So we can check back. We can look for Alex. Yeah, cybersecurity and cloud computing. So it analyzes the table and can do the heavy lifting if you don't know what to ask. And I put this one, so you can also a list of which employees enjoy sports. So this is what I kind of use with Notion AI. So it can take the data and manipulate the data, not to say manipulate, and analyze the data and give you suggestions. So when you have this, you can go down more and you can start emailing. You can start planning. Give 3 suggestions. Kind of we should organize. Okay, company-wide, say employees who enjoy running and jogging could participate in a, what is it, group promote physical. So you can take this, you can take number 1 and say, right, invitation for all employees, the K race. So yeah, you can put the details in. So this will give you a random email. So when you take the random email, say it's done, then you can manipulate the email. So you can ask AI to tell you the venue to LCC Park, Kuala Lumpur. Also include the detailed itinerary for the event. So replace selection. So I added the itinerary. You can change the venue, you can change the times, you can change the price. So the way you do it is just select and I say to change change the fee to 10. So just rewrite everything with the item change replace selection. So that's how you change to $10. If you just are lazy to go inside, you can just ask it to rewrite the entire paragraph. So the next one I am just gonna say, so you can see my flow. So you can start with one thing, a database, and you can go to training suggestions. Then you can list the details of the sports and hobbies, and then you can give a suggestion about the event. Then you write the email for the event. Uh, then you can plan the meal, um, all in the same page. So the last one I'm going to show you is URLs. So if you have a URL of a website that you are too lazy to read, so you just write this and ask AI, give a detailed description of the page with one header, one H1, so that is one header, and 10 H2s, so that's subheadings. So it will read the website for you and make a summary for you. So this is a Notion beginner's guide. So when you have this, you can make it even more detailed because there's more data. So as AI, add 5 points to each. Place heading. Good. So you can add more. Separate all points with 3 sub detail with 3. Separate all points with 3 point. So I'll just read the website and give you more details about can watch. Okay, just curious, what's the difference if you describe directly from OpenAI and describe version? They're two different things, but if you have a Notion workflow, you can just add this kind of workflows into your existing database. So if you have ChatGPT, it's on itself, but if you have stuff to do in Notion, you can add these features. You can use these workflows for your certain Notion workbooks. So it can get into detail. So when we went to the business admin thing, so you can put everything, you can make pages, you can put videos inside. So when you have a different, you already have ChatGPT, that's different. So you have to copy paste, copy paste, copy paste, but you can't embed stuff and put it into a neat package such as Notion. So that's what differences I found. So currently I'm using it, I used it for like this kind of items. For the most recent items is I had to write how do you say, a sales page with the details, the business details that I had. So I just wrote the details, like wrote the details of the data like this, and asked it to put it in a paragraph form, how to put it in a if you're winning an award, okay, use the details above and put it into acceptance speech. So something like that. So this more or less Notion AI is how do you say, an add-on to your Notion features where you can just go into deep stuff. So you can take pop art, you can make this into a page and say give 10 pop art artists with an example. So if you use ChatGPT, you have to go inside, copy paste, copy paste, copy paste. And if you wanted to go to say the food section, you have to find the food section, then go into the food section. So you just If you have multiple things, you just can make a table of contents here. So you can link up everything such as this. So I can make this, copy, and go into article lighting and make a overall table of contents. So when I copy everything, I already have my shortcuts. So this is a synced page. So whatever I do with this page, say I remove the spaces, it will reflect into the original page. So if I were to add other stuff, to URLs, so if I were to change URLs here, it'll change it here, URLs here, and also it'll change, which one was it again? Yeah, it will change into this. So if every block that has this red border is linked, so anything you do here will be changed into all. So if you have copied this space into 20 pages, it will automatically change those 20 blocks. So I think that's good for me. If should I share more? Should I share more, Thomas, or we can go to the next one?
Any just curious about your thoughts so far, like after you use Notion AI for so far, right? What's the most common use case for you?
For me, is the expansion of a topic. So you don't have to go to one place where, say, you're doing the nutrition planning thing, right? So you don't have to go to a nutrition. You don't have to go to MyFitness to get this. You just ask it and it'll come. You don't have to go to another website, recipe.com, and find a recipe. You don't have to go to your Excel sheet to make a plan. So you can make the plan in here. And then if you wanted to extrapolate these recipes, you don't have to go back to recipe.com. So you just it's all in one ecosystem where you can extract data and put it neatly in one place. So when you do this over time, you inadvertently you make your own cookbook because you keep on adding on, keep on adding on. So say I don't know what quinoa is, so you can just say you can put give four benefits of quinoa. See right here. So you can
Okay, sounds
expand,
sounds like
expand.
the idea is that you can have everything in one place, right? Without going to different
Yes.
sources.
So it speeds up time.
Okay, all right. Yeah, thanks, Aswan. So I think the next topic that we're going to cover is kind of similar to the idea of having Notion in AI in Notion. Is that I'll be showcasing some examples of actually creating charts, so dynamic charts inside Notions, and also some examples of automations or how you can connect different data sets or different things into Notion itself. So I'm just reading one questions. So I'm a freelance Facebook marketer. I'm wondering how this Notion AI can help me with work. So yeah, I'm not sure. I can share my experience as well. Um, so, basically for me, I personally use more on ChatGPT, and normally I use it for just in terms of content generations. So I'm not sure if I have examples here. I don't think I have it now. But yeah, personally for me, it's more on when I want to write posts. I want it to be more formal. I want it to be more playful. Like I can actually just reach out to the AI to help me to generate it, which I think Notion AI should be able to do the same as well. Yeah, I think Haswan share a bit of the trending ideas, the tones, pitches, copywriting. And lately I've been liking like asking AI to help me to write formal emails, which I'm not very good at. But yeah, so that's that. Any other questions about AI? So before we move on. Okay, if there's nothing, then maybe let me just, I wanted to share this as well earlier, just in terms of security, right? So if you're actually planning to use Notion for your business, so a lot of things like, a lot of times people have concerns about just how safe Notion is. especially if you're working in a corporate environment. So I'm not too, to be fair, like, I'm actually not too into all these like technical details in terms of security. But from my understanding is that, so what this article, like based on this guy that I actually follow, like he's quite known for all this stuff, is that he mentioned like it's actually encrypted at rest, means that Notion database are actually encrypted on their server side, and then it's also actually encrypted in transit, meaning that when you're actually sending information from your end to Notion, it's actually being encrypted as well. And the last thing, I think the latest that they added is called SOC2 compliance. So I'll leave you guys to decide what that means. But the summary is that, based on what he explains as well, is that Notions shouldn't be used for like clinical data or like personal data. For example, if you're a doctor, like you actually inputs like personal data here. So that is not encouraged because that's very highly sensitive. And then, for example, in our use case more like for passwords, so that's not actually encouraged as well. So for things like password, actually more I recommended to just use like, for example, LastPass or Bitwarden. So those are the tools that actually more encouraged. But for the rest, like for example, project management, SOPs, like staff onboarding, like, so those are actually definitely fine with using Notions. So yeah, this is just one of the things that I want to share about the security. And then the next thing to share is on just what other things you can actually do with Notion, right? Since the idea, the goal of Notion is to have everything in one space. So you have all your data, your SOPs, your sales data, your projects. So what can Notion do, right? So there are actually a lot of different third-party tools that integrates with Notion. So one of the tools that I've been using extensively lately is called Grid. So what Grid is actually, it actually allows you to create dynamic dashboards. So if you have used like something like Tableau, Power BI, so it's actually something similar, but that is actually integrates with Notion. So it actually integrates with Notion, Excel, Google Sheets as well. But the main attractions for this in this case is actually Notion. So here are some examples that I created actually for my previous webinar. I do it for Grid. So the Grid actually, like, you can create like a more, this is more like an email newsletter registrations. So what I can do is actually you can create like some form of checking. So here, if I just type in the email address, right? So once I type in the correct format, it actually show up the subscribe button. So and then the users can just type in, hi, nice to meet you. So what would happen is that once they click subscribe, right, they actually just send an email to my email that's actually registered to this Grid account. So I'll just receive like a registration. So this is one of the examples. And then what this can do is actually you can actually link directly to your Notion as well. So once people submit a registration, right, using a form, so it actually directly updates in Notion. Okay, and then the second one is more on customer CRM. So this is another examples of you can create like a charts. So at the bottom here, so this is actually the tables that I've created in Notion. So this database. So the idea is just that currently one of the downside of Notion is just that you can't create one database and then you filter it, right? For example, you want to filter it for company A, and then we want to treat it like a CRM, right? We want to share it to the customers. So currently Notion can't do that because if it's the same database, people can actually just change the filter. So this is actually like one of the most like asked requests like from the users. Although of course you can actually share like separate page to your customers and then that will be private. Just in this case specifically is for database, so you can't filter it. So just this example is like actually share examples of data from company A. So you can see, I'll just show you now. So in this case, maybe just like an invoice status for the customers, right? If it's customers that you actually work a lot together, so you can actually just share this page to them, and then you can see like what's the process of the progress of the invoice. Is it like being paid? Is it in processing? And then they can just like a more beautiful charts to just see the overall progress of it. And then another one is more on the personal side. This is more expense dashboard that actually being created using Grid. So it's actually referencing this database that I have at the bottom here. So this is just like a way you, if you track your daily expenses, right? So these are just Starbucks, like KFC, like rental, car loans, and then you just separate it based on category, and then you have the dates as well, and then the cost. So what would happen is that we can actually have these charts here. So let's say I just select it, select all. So you can see like just the expenses that I've spent. So just in general, like, so you can see like being separated in this pie chart. And then if I, for example, I want to deep down, like let's say, for example, finance. So if I click finance, right, it just shows the finance that's only for January. So you can see like food and beverage, it will only show for January as well. So this is just a different ways of actually telling your stories of a Notion database that you have using the charts. And then for the more recent examples I have, so this is more like a sales order dashboard. So currently that's something I'm creating for my clients as well. Just that I want to combine what Notion already have together with your dashboard. So what you can see here is actually a sales order dashboard templates. So at the top here, left side here, so these are just the products that you have. And then you have something called like sales order. So basically every time you have a new order, right, you can just add on here. So for example, I can just click this button. So we just create the order items here. So I can just type in the invoice number, let's say 9, and then I can just put a quantity. So if I order new stocks, so people order new stock, right? So you can see like automatically there's a generate discounts. So what this means is that actually automatically being updated to the charts you see here at the right side. So if I select like different years, right? So I can see like different data. So you can see like different data, different timelines of the items being sold, and they can see the sales and then the products categories. So these are one of examples that you can use Notions for. So I think Tech Long have one question about, is there a way to use Notion to calculate just business days using formula? Uh, I think it's possible, Tech Long, but that formula probably is a bit complicated. I wouldn't say no. So I'm not sure if you mean business days, is it just like weekdays? So if it's just weekdays, it's probably easier. If you include like public holidays, right, that would be probably a bit more difficult, but it's definitely possible. And then, okay, so yeah, that's the example of creating for grids using charts, right? And then another thing I want to share with you guys is on more on automation. So actually previously I do create like a guides just for people to get started using no code tools. So I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with this term. No code basically means like you actually still need programming knowledge. So the idea is that you actually use like a lot of tools that actually being built. So for example, Zapier, which is one of the popular options. So the idea is that you can actually use Zapier to connect Notions to other different tools. For example, Google Calendars, Outlook, Gmails, PayPal. So let's say I give you examples, like you can create an invoice in Notion. Once you create it, right, and then maybe just put the status into ready. So you automatically just create an invoice in PayPal and then send it to your customers. So there's actually a lot of tools readily available that allows you to do that with, I would say like limited coding knowledge. Of course, you still need to learn about it and how you should do it, but the time like compared to like a traditional coding is much simpler. So this is actually one of the reasons why Notion is very attractive as well, because people actually build a lot of different tools that actually connects to Notion. So here are just some of the examples that I've written, and I'll share with you guys later just these documents so that you guys can go through it. So just some of the most common examples. So for example, we have something called Notion to Sheets. So Notion to Sheets basically help you to sync your Notion database with Google Sheets. So the idea is that maybe there's some more complex formulas, like for example, that long you're mentioning, like maybe you want to count business days, right? I'm pretty sure it'll be easier to count it in Excel, Google Sheets itself, since the formula is like kind of similar to Excel. So what you can do is that you can integrate the Excel formulas inside Notion when you sync both of them together. Another use case could be that maybe there's a big companies and then some of the staff, they are not that ready, they're not that tech savvy. They still prefer to use like Google Sheets, right? Or Excel. So what in this case is that we can just sync both of them, and then you can have the, maybe for example, the admin, they can still continue to use Google Sheets, and then the rest of the team will use Notions. So this will get the benefits that everything will still be in the same place, but then everyone have their own preferred interface. And then another good example is something called Notion automations. Let me just show you. I actually tried this myself before for a few months. So what this does actually is syncs your Google Calendar with Notion. So basically, when you create a new events in Notion, right, actually you update in your Google Calendar, and then vice versa. If you create a new Google Calendar events, you automatically update in your Notion. So I have tried this for a few months. It's actually very good. Like I don't think there's any complaints. So the only reason why I've stopped using it is just that I find the calendar interface on Notion doesn't quite fit well for like more events. So let's say like if I have too many events, right, it kind of gets blocked down. But then it's definitely one of the best tools out there to help you to have like a two-way sync. Of course, this is like a paid tool. So I think it's $5 per month. So yeah, if you actually have a use case for this, like it's definitely worth it, and it's very stable. And then let me just find a few examples as well. Okay, so there are a few more examples here I'll share here. So grid is the one that I mentioned earlier. So you can create charts. And then there's a tool called Bardeen. So this is actually a very good tool. Currently, they're actually free. So I'm not sure when they're gonna become paid subscriptions. So one of the good thing about Bardeen is that this actually has simple automation as well. Like for example, you want to create use cases. Let me just find the examples here. So you can actually connect like Google Sheets to Notions. You can connect Slacks to Notions. So there are a few use cases, but one of the most, I guess like the most useful so far I found is that they actually have like a web scraper. So for example, let's say you have, let's take marketing, right? So if you're a marketing person, like so sometimes I would do is I want to scrape data from, let's say from LinkedIn. Just to give examples, like I want to scrape, maybe I want to find like lead posts. So just find examples. Don't see any examples here. Okay, maybe connections. Okay, just for examples, I want to, this person is maybe he has similar lead pools that I want to target, right? So I want to send, maybe I want to get their information into Notions, and then maybe I can follow up with them later. So what you can do is actually you can use Bardeen. So the setup is actually very simple. Like I think it took me like maybe 30 minutes, 1 hour to learn. So you can actually just scrape the data without actually programming knowledge. So what it does is, I can even show you guys right now if I have time. Let me just see the time. This is the only thing I'm conscious about. In 15 minutes, so I think it's possible. Let me just, it's not showing to me. So Bardeen is actually just a Chrome extension, so you can use it for your browser. So what they have is something called Scraper. So let me just do a quick example to you. So once you select start building, right? So it just asks you to select your table that you want. So let's say I select this, I select this. So just to make sure they know that what the tools is looking at. And then now you can decide what information you want. So maybe I want the name, right? So let me just select the name. So can you just get text? So what you can see here is the tool actually automatically extracts all the names that's actually being followed by this user. And then maybe, for example, I want the descriptions. So I can get text as well. So get text, so description. So once this is done, you can get the information that you want. Maybe last one, we can just get a URL. So I just type this as URL. So once this is done, you can just take templates and then you can connect it with Notion. So I won't go through the details on how you can do that. So that you can actually just find on YouTube, or you can PM me later just on how you can do that. But just want to show you how easy it is to actually set up this scraper, and then you can actually link to Notions or even Google Sheets or other tools. So I think they support that as well. And then some of the examples is Super. So let me just show this. So Notion can actually be created as a website as well. So by default, Notion is actually, I wouldn't say it's the most prettiest, but if you want to share, like for example, maybe this example, like the Jakarta trip that I have, if you want to share to someone, right, I can actually just click share and then share to web. So I can copy the web link and then I can just start sharing to everyone. So they will just see this like as is. So this can be a website itself. But then if you're more on the business side, you want to have your own custom domain. So what you can do is you can use Super. So this is something we call like a wrapper. So it actually turns your Notion documents, right, or Notion page into very pretty websites. So let's see if there are any examples here that, yeah, so, okay. Yeah, so this is actually a website created using Super, but all these things actually are part of Notions. You can see like the URL is actually changed to art.jasper.ai. And then you can see like they have like more seamless interface. So it definitely doesn't scream Notion to you. It actually just looks more like a legitimate websites. Once you select it, you can have more information here. And then my understanding is that it actually supports like SEOs and then CSS injections. So you can include your own codes as well using that tool. Of course, this is, I think they have like a free version that you can use using their own domains, but then you need to have their own branding there, or you have to pay it for $16 per month. So this can be like a more like an alternative if you're using Squarespace or different websites builder. So what you can do is actually using Notion and then Super. Okay, I think Hasia has one question. So you're a content writer and journalist, so you like to know how much storage exactly can Notion store. As some of your writings are a bit lengthy and we're planning to do it on a daily basis. Or are there any other third-party software that can be linked to Notion on these situations? Yeah, so I'm not sure what you plan to store, Hasia. Like if it's just writing, right? There's actually no limits, even for the free plans. The only limits that they have is in terms of storing uh, files. So Notion actually allows you to upload files. So for example, here, right, I can select upload, and then you can choose a file that you want to upload, and you can upload it. So the limit in this case is more on, let me just show you examples. So there are two limitations. One is that it actually takes a bit longer to upload files, especially it's bigger. So in this case, it's only like a 6 MB file, right? It takes around like maybe 10 seconds. So you want to upload like a 1 GB files, like it's actually quite slow. Like I don't remember, like maybe like 5 minutes. So Notion is not the fastest when it comes to upload like larger files. And then the size limit for free plan is 5 MB, and then for paid plans is two for, I think the biggest like 2.5 GB. So that's more on the file storage. But if you're more worried about like writing, right? So there's actually no limits on that, and it won't affect your performance actually. In fact, so yeah, that's the examples. And then if you're content writer as well, right? So there are tools as well that actually help you to create like a blog site using Notion. I can't think of it on top of my mind right now. I think it's called Feather as well. Show examples. Yeah, so this is another examples that you can actually turn your Notion page into a blog post or blog websites. So yeah, they have some examples here. Let's see if I click inside there. Yeah, so this is actually a page created using Notion as well, but then they just use this software, right, to turn it into a website. So you can see this looks just like a normal blog post. The people writing it, and then the table contents. Yeah, so these are examples of other ways that Notion can be used. Then I think last but not least, I think we're running out low on times. So yeah, maybe just the last one that I've been using lately is called Plus Docs. So this is just a snapshot tool. So it doesn't have to be Notion, to be honest. So you can actually captures like a snapshot on maybe your Twitter analytics, your, like for example, I use a podcast analytics or just different websites analytics. And then you can have like a capture screenshots. You updates like every 1 hour currently. I think this is for free right now. I'm not sure where they're going to charge it. So what this does is actually you can actually embed this in your, I'm not sure about Word documents, but your other websites or different documents that supports like embedding. So you can always have like a live dashboards in your space. All right. So I think we're about almost time. So any questions from the audience? If there's no question, right, let me just share one last thing. And then feel free to ask any questions if you have. Yeah. So maybe just one last thing, guys. So thanks for everyone for joining today. So I know it's Saturday. Maybe some of you is like Friday night, right? So appreciate you joining. So just for today, like if you guys have any follow-up questions, right? So I'm offering like just 1 hour free consultations for you guys. So it can be just for personal use or for your business use. So you can just scan the QR code here or the link below. So you can just reach out to me. And then Haswan, like if you want people to reach out to you, like in terms of you want to know more about AI. So Haswan, maybe you can just provide your link, your contacts in the chart, the comments. Maybe people can find you there.
All right, I add my links in the comments.
Yeah. Okay. So I think we have 7 more minutes. No. So Reese, you can ask me any questions. Doesn't have to be business. So it can be personal. since oftentimes at Notion, like a lot of, even my clients, they use Notion for both their business side and then also personal sites. So yeah, I'm happy to help. Like, so you can just book it here. And then Hazwan can leave your contacts in the comment. Yep, I think you'll share your link here. So facebook.com/Hazwan. All right. So thanks for joining everyone. So I'll be uploading this video on YouTube, and then I'll share the resources that I talked about during this webinar as well in email. So if you guys have any follow-up, you can just reach out to us through email.